Hi Kiwi! Alright, we're picking up right where we left off, and let's start by just examining this new room. So we're going to be using one of these directional blocks, which I believe I can angle up and down if I recall. Given they're starting with the dash reset here, I'll probably want to conserve my second dash for somewhere later. So we need to angle this downwards so I can get past there, then up so I can reach that sigil, then downwards so I can reach that sigil, and then there's a dash reset here. I don't know where that door will move, but presumably it'll move to the right, so maybe we only need to take this block so far as to get to the... Oops, well then. Maybe we only have to take this so far as to get the first sigil, maybe? Let's see. Well, it would have helped if I grabbed the dash. I assume my first step is to get onto this side, so I have more area to move. Okay, so no matter what, that travels to the right. I can't control its directions. Fair enough. So yeah, I think what I need to do is just fall and then dash to grab back onto it. And I definitely need to do that in a single dash so I can get the second sigil. So what if I do diagonal like that? Diagonal does work. Okay. Oh, you know what I need to do? I bet if I can be more consistent if I jump off and then dash upwards. Maybe. It may be too slow for that. Let's find out. I think it's actually the momentum that's the issue. Okay. Never mind. Let's try this more. It would be nice if I could get the diagonal. Anyway, let's talk about post-production while I figure this out in my head. So, there are a couple things I'm already doing with post-production. I'll start with audio balancing because that is probably the thing I'm most, let's say, if not frustrated, kind of like rabbit holed on. Mainly the issue being, ever since, what was it, the Space for a Space for the Unbounds episode, I think 8, where it was Eric the Were-Dog or something to that effect, the audio balancing on that episode was atrocious in its raw form, if you will. The Were-Dog voice, I was doing this deep, breathy voice, just did not want to get picked up on the microphone well, sadly. And so I had to very quickly learn how to balance the audio. And for reference, the editing software I'm using is called DaVinci Resolve. It's probably higher grade than I need, but it's free, and I figured I'd start with that, and then if I wanted to move on to something simpler, I could always backtrack, but leave it to me to always choose the hardest one of the harder softwares to learn as my starting point, my launch pad, if you will. I need to work on that bad habit of mine. I need to respect that I'm a beginner, and maybe I should work with things tailored towards beginners. I digress. So DaVinci Resolve is the software I'm using, and they have a couple ways of balancing audio. The first process I used was something called normalization, and what it did was it allowed me to set an upper limit to the audio, and then all volume normalized to that upper threshold would be either raised or lowered relative to it. So, for example, if I set -5 decibels as my threshold, any clip louder than that would have its volume reduced, and any clip that was quieter than that, based on the loudest peak, mind you, would be raised. So, for example, let's say I had a clip whose loudest peak was -10 decibels. Then what the program does with normalization is it would raise all volume within that clip by 5 decibels, so it would go from -10, my loudest peak would go from -10 to -5. Or the other way around, if my loudest peak was -3, then it would reduce all volume by 2 decibels within that clip. So what it would do is it would make the clip either louder or quieter based on the loudest peak. The issue was, particularly for Space for the Unbound, that my loudest audio peaks were often much louder than that -5 decibel threshold that I was aiming for, so everything in that clip was lowered. And that made everything in that clip, that made some parts significantly less audible, especially against the background music and the more tense moments of the recording. The other issue is I'm balancing multiple clips, some of which are louder than others, so the loudest clip would affect all of the other clips if I normalize them together. And if I didn't do that, then the individual clips would sound louder or quieter than each other. It bothered me too much to leave it as it was. Normalization was not the answer I was looking for audio balancing. I think that issue only really lasted for a few recorded episodes before I learned about equilibrating the audio, which I'll go into detail about now, I guess. Basically, it lets me both increase the quietest moments, but also compress the loudest moments. The issue with compression is if it's too loud and it gets compressed and it's maintained, you're going to hear the compression. It creates this kind of very tinny artifact in the vocal lines, almost, I would say. But it's still very, it overall improves the quality. So really, the core balancing, the core facets of audio balancing, if you will, are one, what I do is I set a limiter. I make the maximum volume that the audio can have never exceed -5 decibels. And the reason for that is YouTube has a cutoff of -4. And if it exceeds that, like I mentioned before, then the video is just, the entire video's audio is suppressed to some degree, to my understanding. And then the compressor itself is set that if my voice exceeds a certain decibel range, anything above that range, anything above that threshold is compressed at a 2-to-1 ratio or 2.5-to-1 ratio, meaning it's effectively about half as loud as it would have been up until a certain point. So it doesn't like completely cut the audio in half, it just reduces everything that exceeds that threshold is reduced by that ratio, not the entire audio, just that one, just compressing it enough so that you can tell it's louder, but it'll be quieter than it was in pre-production. And those are the main things I've learned to do for audio balancing. Of course, if something is particularly loud, equilibrating does about 80% of the work, but it is also worthwhile finding those really loud peaks and reducing them manually first so that everything gets balanced a bit more evenly. Because the makeup, what it's called, the thing that lets me increase the lower volumes still does push the upper volumes upwards, so I have to be mindful of that when I'm trying to do such a thing. I think we've got this now. Here we go, and there we go. Perfect. All right, let's see what our next room brings. I don't actually know what they want here. I know there's corner bouncing, but I doubt that's the technique they're going for. Huh. I assume here, going forward, I need to wave dash and then... Maybe I do need to corner bounce? That seems... I've never done a corner bounce before, but I know it's another speedrun tech that helps you evade spikes. Unless there's a secret path up here, which I doubt there is. It's worth checking, though. Let's see. Is there anything secret up here if I were to climb up this way? Is there anything up here? Not over there. What about... No, I can't reach it. Hold on. Let's see. Anything secret-wise up here? No. Okay. So we have to do this legit. So wave bounce into a momentum jump, or a wall jump. But then what? I guess I have a second dash, so maybe I try to land back on the wall and momentum jump up that way. Alright, let's try it. What's the point of these spike blocks on the right, though? This room, tricky. No, because look, I get so much momentum going that way. I'm really not sure how to handle this room. I guess I'll keep going with my idea. Maybe I just didn't get the wall. I wasn't ready for the wall bounce. No, it doesn't look like you can make it back. I'll try a couple more times. There must be something to it. Aha, okay, so if I get... maybe I was just a little too early or a little too late. There we go. Okay, and now I dash up here. Can I make that? Okay, cool. So now... Oh no, I have to do it again. I have to do another wall bounce on that little alcove there. Oh my goodness, what a room. This is gonna be tricky. Anyway, so as far as post-production... Ugh. I inevitably will need my brain for this room, but I will try to provide convincing commentary in the meantime. Or reasonable commentary, I guess is what I want to say. I'm not sure. Anyway, so that's audio balancing for now. And again, I'm not fully satisfied with the quality at which it's reached. I still feel like I'm peaking my mic more often than I'd like. I haven't found the perfect setup for where I want my mic. Frankly, my mic setup as a whole needs improvement. I have a Puff Guard and a Blue Yeti microphone for those who are interested. And it serves me extremely well, but I have noticed if I reposition the microphone and the Puff Guard, and I've noticed with both that... Oops. I've noticed that with both, depending on how close they are to my mouth, it's a very noticeable difference in terms of how much my microphone picks up. And finding the right balance where the Puff Guard is keeping me from puffing against the mic, but I'm also audible, is a bit of a challenge. And particularly when I'm doing those voice acting sections in A Space for the Unbound, I tend to... The volume of my voice ranges very substantially, and anyone who's ever voice acted knows you move your body a lot when you're voice acting, and so trying not to punch the mic while I'm doing that, while I'm sitting down playing a game. Not to mention, what do I say? Not to mention, not just that, but if I'm doing a really breathy character or one that enunciates heavily, I'm at greater risk of activating the puff or hitting a puff or having that wind sound on the microphone from breathing against the Puff Guard if it's too close. And some of those issues are solved by just learning how to better balance my gain on the microphone itself, and also finding a positioning that is consistent and works for me. But because my recording desk is also my work desk, I constantly have to rearrange my setup, so there's no consistent positioning for the microphone or my body relative to it. And that's likely going to be how it is for the foreseeable future. I just don't have the resources to set up like a recording studio, not even close to that. There we go. Okay, that's that room taken care of. Let's see what this looks like. All right, so we're gonna get launched a lot, it seems. So I want to activate that and use the momentum to carry me up and jump off of that, then dash to this one on the left. And then do the same on the right. Dash to that, perhaps? So maybe I don't want to use my dash. Oh, there's a dash gem there. Oh, no. I see what they want. At the peak of this one that comes up on the right, I have to jump to the right, collect that dash juice, and then do a momentum jump off that wall to land on the left side of this, and that'll take me to the end. Still seems fairly doable for me, I suppose, but let's see what happens. Okay, so that's step one. All right, more on post-production in the meantime. So, never mind. so that's one big step. There are other big steps, of course. I'm not sure. I must need to use my dash to get to the left one after I grab it off of that. Okay, I think I figured it out. What I need to do is not just the momentum dash on the one up here, but also momentum dash off of this one on the left. And that should get me the distance I need to make it to the one on the right. Man, it's only going to get more difficult from here, I'm sure, but it's about solving the puzzle as much as it is the mechanical skill of beating the game. And I think I need to do the fast hop across the top of that right. I don't know what to call this, because they're not traffic lights anymore, but they're the equivalent of traffic lights. Maybe I'll just keep calling them traffic lights, because they're basically those things from chapter 1. As far as post-production goes, so we've talked about audio balancing and my woes about that. And again, I've still got a lot to learn about that. I find I'm not nearly at the level I want. And I'm worried that some videos will... I still worry about some degree of inconsistency between... not just between videos, but within episodes themselves. Because, especially with Celeste, where I'm jumping around between days of recording and cutting out clips where I may have had to reposition because my cat decided to throw up on the couch, or I needed to get up and just take a brief platforming break, those sorts of things. The position I'm in relative to the mic is often different, but still within the same clip. so it's hard to find where those differences are without rewatching the entire video, and that substantially increases the production time on these videos. Like, part of the reason I wanted to reduce the length of the episodes was to respect my upcoming work schedule. But unfortunately, because of production, it still feels like each video is taking roughly the same time in terms of recording and then post-production and editing. And again, I still think the editing is subpar, but it really gives me an additional appreciation for the YouTubers I follow, how much effort they must put into their videos, or at least how much effort they plus their editors do, because my goodness, now I understand why people would love to have their own personal editor. It's just, I don't think it's financially feasible. Again, if I'm not going to take this as a career, I don't think investing in those higher end those niceties is worth it. The microphone was a present that I asked for Christmas because I figured I wanna try this. And basically it was a gift from the entire family pretty much. So I figured, let me try this. And then if it works, it works, and if it doesn't work, well, I got to try something new, and I can probably sell the microphone on eBay or something for a discounted price, but get a little bit back on it. Not that I really want to sell a Christmas gift, you know, but I figure it was a lot of money. I can always use it to buy gifts for the people who spent things for me. Regardless, I think half the battle is positioning, learning where to position relative to the mic, and managing my gain. And what I've read is that it's better to keep the gain low, especially for those voice-acted moments, because I get loud, and it's better to not clip the mic and then raise the volume in post-production than it is to clip the mic and have that compressed, unpleasant audio artifact on it. The artifact sounds similar to when I compress no, I don't think so, but when I compress audio, there's definitely a notable change in my voice, and I don't care for it. So I'm trying to learn how to manage both, making sure everything's audible, but not so compressed, but the things that are louder aren't so compressed that it becomes intolerable, rather. Whatever. The point being, audio balancing is way more complicated than I gave it credit for, and I've only recently just discovered there are kind of sound effects that I could use to do like voice modulation and pitch editing, none of which sounds good to me yet, but I was hoping to maybe apply that to, if not A Space for the Unbound, something else down the road, if I want to be kind of creative with it. And I definitely think there is room for creativity on this. I just need more time to get a sense of how it works. And there we go, that's the end of that room. Alright, no telescope or no binoculars to show me where to go on this one. Alright, I see I need to go there. Oh, I have to wait, I bet I have to wave dash. Basically, if there's something that looks like I can't reach it, it's probably only because I have to wave dash to get to it, and I'm learning that. Alright, so we've talked about positioning, we've talked about audio balancing, let's talk about the other bit, the actual footage. So, if you haven't noticed, and I would hope that you've noticed by now, my strategy for dealing with really long sections of Celeste that I can't beat is I clip them out. But I'm kind of happy with it. The fancy transition I do is... Oh, there's a lot of wave dashing here. The fancy transition that I do is whenever the stars or the screen transition on death happens, I clip the first frame that has entirely black screen on it. Okay, that was really cool, and I'm glad I'm definitely getting better at the wave dash. This is feeling good. Oh my goodness, this is a big room, isn't it? Or, well, actually, I don't know if it's a big room, but I already see what I'm trying to say is this reminds me of the Chapter 2C room, which was really big, is what I'm trying to say. But it looks like, oh, I'm gonna be... Oh no. Ooh, I don't like that. Do I have to dash? I have to dash immediately out of that, don't I? Okay, this is safe, but now I don't have a dash, so maybe... Oh, you know what? I just have to not jump out of that one. They trained me to jump out of these two, but I can't jump out of the third. Gotcha. So, that's one thing that I've been doing to try and preserve some degree of quality in the video is... Wait, I know what I can do. As long as there aren't any spikes on the other side of that, there are. Okay. So maybe I start high? No. Maybe I do need to jump there, but I just have to do like a short hop, maybe? Okay, that works. But I wasted my dash. But okay, this room looks way more doable now that I figured out the sauce to it. Anyway, the main thing I've been doing is cutting out excess footage that is just feels unnecessary, because this game is a game that needs some degree of concentration, and I'm clearly doing a reasonable job about maintaining dialogue through it the last couple episodes, but oh my goodness, you can believe that no one wanted to watch me grind out 7C for 3 hours. I don't even want to watch me do that. I really did not. The way I've managed this is, again, the first frame where the entire screen is black in the transition, I clip there, or I cut the footage there, and then clip in wherever I want to start it up. And one thing I'll comment on is I'm not a fan of it, but what I end up doing is I keep the entire section of the final success of the challenge, which often involves me not talking for a solid couple seconds to sometimes upwards of a minute if it's like Chapter 7C, where... Oh, a little too high, but I'm getting this. So in Chapter 7C, for example, I cut out probably about, oh gosh, 3 hours of footage just trying to beat that awful, awful experience. And most of that was just dead silence of me grinding out the same level, because I figure I need my brain for certain levels, and it's better that I use my faculties entirely for that, especially if I'm tired, where having those faculties available to begin with is very limited. And then I can always splice things together so it sounds like dialogue is mostly consistent. The only issue with that, again, is in those rooms where I've finally beaten the challenge, I have the entire room clear in that segment, so you just have blatant silence. And I've always thought about going back and adding in some commentary post-production wise, but again, the goal is to limit how much extra work I have to do after the video is done for now. I do have an interest in doing more highly edited, higher quality video production down the road, and actually I have a couple plans in the works for that. I need time, and that's part of the reason why I'm uploading videos on a schedule ahead of time, because I really, really, really just, without getting ahead of schedule, there is no way I can maintain the schedule I've tried to set for myself, which is ideally a daily upload. My goal is to do this my goal has and has always been to upload once daily for a full year to see what it is like. And then from there, decide what my content should be after the fact. And so far, I've done a pretty darn good job at upholding that. I believe this video will probably go live somewhere in mid to late May, or maybe even early June, given when it's recorded relative to when it'll be uploaded. I believe. I don't know for certain. Oh, whoa. Oh, I can do this, and woohoo! But the entire reason I'm uploading things early is so that I have more time to focus on work outside of production, but also, if I wanted to do a more involved project, I have the option to do so. What is your goal here? Oh my goodness. Do I have to waste my dash to get this? But then how do I... Maybe I grab it and then grab this, then dash? Maybe? I think that's what I need to do. Hyper dash. I have to hyper dash. Oh, that's clever. This is a way to force you to hyper dash, isn't it? I think it is. Okay. So use my dash here. Hyper dash. Hyper dash. Yeah. Oh, that's nasty, but I like it. It forced me to think for a moment there. I'm not good at thinking. I've proven that to Kiwi many times. But I digress. So that's one section of post-production video editing. Usually I try to keep the intros and outros in the video at the time of making, but every now and again, for example, what was it? The Summit? I believe it was the Summit. I recorded most of that in one sitting, or maybe 2 sittings, and I didn't want to stop playing because I was having a grand old time. So I just kept going with it and then cut the videos mid-video, which I'm not a fan of doing that. I'm really not a fan of doing that. I think it really kills the pace of the video sometimes, but I felt it necessary in that instance. I try to avoid it where possible, though. And for those who are wondering, every single intro, every single outro is original. It's never the same recording. Sometimes it is a separate recording from the recording I'm doing, but it's always different in some way or another. And I would like to keep doing that because I know it's silly, but it feels like a little degree of personal touch to the video, to demarcate each video as its own entity, if you will. But I guess these last 2 episodes are kind of a glimpse into my production process and what I'm thinking. But I haven't really addressed the areas where I want to improve. First off, I think particularly after Celeste, my goal will be to, it already is, it's what I call trimming the fat, removing the excess video content that really doesn't move the story, move the dialogue I'm providing, give any sense of progression. You could almost call it filler content. It's the same, it's something that if it didn't exist, the experience of the video would virtually be unchanged. And I know this is an inherent flaw with me as a person. I have never been good at recognizing what I say, what I do, and that sort of thing, what is superfluous to the conversation. So it's a very challenging addition to the process of video editing, if you will. And if I want to make those higher production value, more edited videos, I'm going to have to cut out a lot of things that are just me, for example, grinding this room over and over again, doing the same mistake and failing until I finally get it. And one of the things I've tried to do is cut those sections if there's no dialogue over them. And because of post-production, I can always move the dialogue so that it continues regardless of whether I died or not, or whether I transition a scene or not. But what I try to do is I edit out the scenes that, or I try to include primarily a bit of, I cap myself at about 3 minutes per section, or per room, under normal circumstances. The last video might be a little bit out there. I haven't actually edited it yet. I just took a quick peek at it, and I suspect that will be the case, because I have some good dialogue to it. But for example here, after this death, I'm going to cut ahead to this section where I have the realization that to clear the section, I'm right about the wave dash, but then I also need to do a wall jump like that. And so that's what I've been trying to do with especially the more recent Celeste videos, is when I have either a section where I've learned something or improved, like solved the part of the puzzle and am able to act on that solution, I'll edit in that clip, and then if I die on the process after that, well, I stop again. Until I'll just... What I do is, until I have the next bit of progression, I keep editing sections out. But for example, here are 2 sections spliced together, but notably apart. I haven't kept track of the time, but it's been like 10 minutes since I tried this at least. Or since I started this room, at least. And the point is, but here you see that I've made some progress. I figured out that I used the wall jump after the hyper dash, and then I jump over this little notch in the stage here, and now I have to somehow hit this spring and get to the end of the stage, probably doing another momentum jump off of this moving platform. The point is, you've seen forward progression. I haven't been locked in a room for 20 minutes with you rambling at you while I do the same thing over and over again and continue to fail. And that is what I'm trying to accomplish. I want the videos as they go on in time feel like they are moving forward, not stagnating. And so that's why I've set this rule of a hard cap of 3 minutes, at most 4 to 5 minutes if there's something I'm really enjoying talking about. Or the room is long and I'm making adequate progress through it. But that way, the rooms don't get stale and the dialogue doesn't become me bumbling about. And there we go. Okay, that room took me a very long time, but I finally did it. that was the closest thing to a cycle-based room we've had in a while. Basically, I needed to... My entire platforming depended on an entirely separate object from me, and I was struggling. I was struggling so much to beat that one. But I think that room is a very good example of what I was describing, that I am trying to... Oh, don't tell me... Can I... Do I have to get under this cloud? Oh no, that's gross. How do you even do that? Do I have to... Huh. So maybe if I bounce like... Maybe after it bounces me up, I just go under it? I'm not sure. Okay, I have to short hop off of it and then go maybe diagonal down. Let's try that. There we go. I do not like that. I don't like that mechanic at all. Ugh, that one doesn't feel good. But the point I'm trying to make is my goal is to have a sense of forward progression in my playthrough of this game. And to do that, sometimes I have to splice footage out, edit the dialogue so that it fits the spot where I want it to be correctly, I guess, if I were to describe it that way. But it's all stuff that I'm learning as I get better at video editing. Maybe I'm not actually supposed to go that way. And all I'll say is I am getting better. I am learning a lot. And it will only, as time goes on, I'll learn more. But with all that said, I think this is a good place to end the episode. I need to take a break after that last stream, I think. And I'll keep talking about the production side of things in the next one. Kiwi, I hope you've enjoyed watching if you're awake, and if you are awake, I hope this is helping you fall asleep. If you're asleep, I hope you're sleeping well. I love you, and I'll see you in the next one.